My girlfriend, who is 28, and I, 26, have been together for just over 3 years. But recently, things have felt different, strange, even. It started with subtle hints, little comments here and there, before she came out and said it. She wanted to try an open or polyamorous relationship. Now, this wasn't the first time she brought it up. She asked me about it at the very beginning of our relationship, but I thought I made it clear that I'm monogamous. I wasn't interested in anything outside of the commitment we shared. But now, here she was, asking again. This time, she suggested that we could even share a girlfriend, or be open and hook up with whoever we wanted. I couldn't believe it. My first instinct was to shut it down, but I tried to stay calm and asked her why she was bringing it up again. She said it was a way to spice up our sex life. I told her, gently, but firmly, that I wasn't into that. I had made it clear before, and I wasn't changing my mind. Her response wasn't what I expected. She became agitated, almost frustrated, and insisted that I should just give it a try. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It pissed me off. No, I said again, more firmly this time. I didn't want to fight, but this was crossing a boundary I wasn't willing to bend on. That conversation happened over 2 weeks ago, and since then, things have only gotten worse. She's been acting distant, barely talking to me, sleeping in the guest room. I've tried reaching out, trying to get her to talk to me, but she brushes me off, saying it's not important anymore. The silence between us is deafening, and the coldness, it hurts. I've found myself venting to friends, trying to make sense of it all, and some of them have suggested the worst. Maybe she's already cheating, or she has someone in mind. At first, I dismissed it. But now I can't help but wonder. She's been off, distant, not just since the open relationship conversation, but even before that. We hadn't been having sex as often, but I chalked it up to my hectic work schedule, to the stress of life. But now? I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm afraid of digging into her life, afraid of what I might uncover. I don't want to face the truth if it's something I can't bear. But I also can't stand this uncertainty. Should I snoop through her phone? Should I confront her about it directly? I don't know what to do. Edit, it's late now, and I'm just sitting here, trying to sober up, but my mind won't rest. I need to get this off my chest. A few days ago, I posted about how my girlfriend asked me for an open or poly relationship. After that post, I finally managed to sit her down and talk about it. I asked her why she was bringing it up again after all this time. She said she just wanted to spice things up, like she had in the past, when we first started dating. But it didn't make sense to me. How would it spice things up if I'm not into that? I told her that the only person who would benefit from this would be her, not me. She kept saying I needed to be more open-minded, that so many people would want a partner who was okay with them being with other people. I didn't know how to respond to that. I told her, yeah, if they were into that, maybe. But I'm not. The conversation went in circles. We couldn't seem to find common ground. In the end, I just told her, listen, if you want to sleep with someone else, just say it. But if that's what you want, we're done. I didn't expect her to react like she did. I thought maybe she'd be remorseful, maybe apologize. But no! Instead, she got furious, screamed, "Oh, so we're over now? Fine." And then, in a voice that shook, she dropped a bombshell. I've been sleeping with him anyway. I'm pregnant. My mind went blank. My heart skipped a beat, then pounded in my chest. I tried to stay calm, but I was losing it inside. I couldn't hold it together. I demanded that she leave, but she refused. So, I left. I went to a friend's place, needing space, needing to breathe. The calls came in, one after the other, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Finally, I picked up. "Get your stuff and move out," I said. "Go live with him. I've had enough." I blocked her and turned off my phone. I didn't want to hear her voice, didn't want to hear any more of her lies. When I turned my phone back on, the messages were waiting for me. I called her. I needed answers. I needed closure. I asked her how long this had been going on. She said since December, when I went out of town. I asked her if they had been sleeping together in my bed. She admitted it. I asked if this was the reason for her pushing the open relationship idea, and again, she said yes. Finally, I asked her if she was planning to keep the baby and still stay with me. Her answer, cold and emotionless, was yes. I hung up. Since then, I've deleted and blocked her on everything. I can't deal with her anymore. I need distance, space to process this. I've even considered breaking the lease on the apartment we shared because now that I know what happened in there, I don't want to be anywhere near it. For now, I'm staying with a friend. I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm just trying to hold it together until I can figure out what's next. I've run out of tears. I don't know if I'm in shock or just emotionally numb, but it feels like the world has been pulled out from under me. I've taken time off work, but I don't know how I'm going to get back to normal after this. I just wanted to say thank you for the advice on my previous post. It helped, even though I'm not sure what the next step is. I just need time. The advice and support from the comments flooded in. One person suggested getting tested, changing passwords, and protecting myself in every way possible. Others couldn't help but question how a baby was supposed to fit into a lesbian relationship, especially one like ours. How was she going to explain this? How did she think the situation would unfold? One comment stood out. She's a terrible person, they said. You did the right thing confronting her. I'm honestly shocked that she thought you'd just be okay with raising someone else's child. I couldn't help but agree. I had always loved kids, and she knew that. If, by some twist of fate, this pregnancy had been an accident because we had opened things up for a while, maybe, I say maybe, I would have considered sticking around. But this was different. I couldn't even begin to process how insane it all was. It felt like a bad joke, but it wasn't. It was reality. One person commented with a question that echoed in my mind. What was her plan here? How did she think she'd explain that she was pregnant without revealing she was cheating? Another comment came in with a suggestion that seemed almost too perfect. I guess the plan was, let's be poly, whoops, got pregnant. But you agreed to it, so you can't be mad at her now. That, honestly, was the only thing that made sense. In her mind, it probably would have worked. It was a stupid idea, but maybe she thought it was foolproof. Then came the advice. You might want to get a lawyer and learn how child support works in your situation. That thought made me sick to my stomach. The last thing I wanted was to be financially tied to this mess. I had to laugh, albeit nervously. Unless I magically start making sperm and grow a member, I think I'm safe, I joked to myself. But it wasn't funny. It was the only thing I could say to keep from breaking down in front of everyone. It wasn't easy, but I needed to laugh just to survive it. A month later, I found myself updating everyone with the latest developments. I was still trying to piece my life back together. First things first, I was alive. I made it through. I got tested for HIV and STDs, and thankfully, everything came back clean. That was one small victory in the chaos. I also went to my landlord to explain everything, and she was kind enough to offer me a cheaper apartment, but I decided to leave the entire complex. I wasn't going to stay where I had so many painful memories. My ex wasn't going to pay her half of the rent, so my part of the lease would be officially broken. I didn't care if she took over the lease or not. That was on her. I had already found a new place to stay with a close friend. But the bad news followed quickly. Just a day after my update, my ex showed up at my friend's house where I was staying. I have no idea how she found out where I was, but with our shared circle of friends, it wasn't hard to figure out. I was numb, still under the influence of everything that had happened, and I didn't want to see her. But she wouldn't leave. She kept pushing, demanding to talk. Finally, I stepped outside to speak with her, though I wasn't sure why I even bothered. She started with her apologies, blaming me being busy, even though she knew I was working hard. But every minute I had outside of work, I spent with her. Then she brought up the sex, or lack of it, claiming we weren't having enough. She even tried to tell me the sex with the guy meant nothing. It didn't take long for the conversation to spiral into her trying to convince me that we could start a family without needing a paid donor. That was the breaking point. I snapped. I called her out for screwing around with him repeatedly and trying to cover it all up with lies. She started crying, screaming back at me. But I wasn't about to let her turn this back on me. I tried to go back inside, but she grabbed onto my shirt, stopping me. I pulled away sharply, trying to escape. The next day, my friend told me that my ex had posted online, claiming I had been abusive and that it drove her into the arms of the baby's father. She posted pictures of them together. Of course, the douchebag backed her up, but almost all of our mutual friends knew the truth by then. They blasted her for the lies, and she was forced to take the post down. At that point, I was done. Goodbye and good riddance to both of them. I felt sorry for the baby. It would grow up with such immature parents. But as for me, I couldn't hold on to the pain anymore. I loved her deeply with everything I had. I thought she was my forever. But she betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. She promised me she'd never hurt me the way my ex had, and yet she did. She lied. She manipulated. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm taking a break from love for now. I need time to heal. Maybe I'll get a pet. It's a small step, but it's a step towards recovery. From here on, I'm focusing on me. It's time to let go and move forward. Update: after moving into my new place, I realized I needed to cut out all the negativity. I'm not going to keep carrying this weight. It's time for me to live for myself now. For the entirety of their 3-year relationship, I've never been allowed to hang out with Dan alone. She always found it suspicious, questioning why I wanted to spend time with him. Honestly, it wasn't even that complicated. I miss my friend. Despite being happily married, there was a bond there that wasn't being nurtured. But Lauren always kept me at arm's length, and I figured it was just her upbringing. She came from a very conservative family, after all. Dan had spoken to her multiple times about it. Each time, she'd back off for a little while, but inevitably, she'd return to the same complaint: her husband couldn't be friends with a girl. It was frustrating, but she made him happy, so I told myself to just accept it. I made my peace with it. And then came the wedding. Initially, I was supposed to be part of the groom's party, standing by Dan's side as one of his closest friends. But Lauren cried. She cried and said that a wedding was not the place to swap gender roles. Dan fought her on this, but I told him to drop it. I told him I'd just attend as a guest. I didn't want him to get caught up in an argument over something as trivial as this. After all, there were bigger things to focus on. The dress code was set to be warm tones, a garden party vibe with earthy, inviting colors. I found the perfect dress, bronze with a hint of orange, a style that fit the theme perfectly. It was chic and subtle. It seemed ideal, and I thought I nailed it. The wedding itself went off without a hitch. But at the reception, things took an unexpected turn. Lauren grabbed me aside, her voice tight with disbelief. "I can't believe you were gold to my wedding," she spat. "You're not the first prize. You're just F***ing** trashy." I was stunned. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. All I could do was stare at her in shock. Her voice rose, almost screeching at me to leave. She was causing a scene, drawing attention to us, and I knew I had to get out of there. I grabbed my husband's hand, quickly said my goodbyes to Dan, and left. It was the only thing I could do. Dan reached out to me afterward. He was upset I had left the wedding so early. But Lauren's mom didn't stop there. She texted me, too, accusing me of ruining the wedding. "You ruined it for her daughter," she said. "You're stupid for wearing a gold dress. It's just as bad as wearing white." I was honestly floored. Was this really a thing? I had no idea. I thought about reaching out to Dan to explain myself, but I wasn't sure if I was in the wrong here. So, I posted my story, seeking advice and a different perspective. I just wanted to know if I had missed something. Was I the one who had messed up? One comment stood out, asking if there was any chance that Dan and I had a secret crush on each other. I laughed, writing that I'm happily married, and Dan and I are as close as siblings. It was ridiculous to think there was anything romantic between us. I even wrote that Dan would rather eat glass than entertain that idea. He's just not my type, and I'm not his. We never saw each other that way. Another commenter pressed further, asking, how would you rate your attractiveness compared to hers? I didn't really know how to answer. Lauren and I were just two completely different people. I'm the stereotypical tall, blonde, 5 feet 11 inches with a six-pack. She's a petite, brunette bombshell with a gorgeous tan and a fuller figure. We couldn't be more different, but both attractive in our own ways. Still, I could see the angle. They were trying to get to the core of what might have triggered her reaction. Have you and Dan ever had a conversation about why you aren't allowed to be alone with him? Another comment asked. Well, it wasn't just me. Any woman couldn't be alone with him, according to Lauren. She didn't believe in platonic friendships between the opposite sex. I think that was at the heart of it all. Then someone asked how Lauren's mom even had my number. I wasn't sure, but I assumed it came from the group chat for the hen's party. Lauren didn't have bridesmaids, so her mom had organized the night and added me to the group text. I guess that's how she got my number. Honestly, I wasn't sure what was going on, but my husband had said they were acting crazy. He suggested I post for some clarity. I did, and the response was overwhelming. Another commenter questioned how I could have been a part of the groom's party if Lauren didn't have bridesmaids. The truth was, Lauren had her mom standing up for her, so there were no official bridesmaids. But that's not why I was there. Then, the update came. Wow, I wrote. I genuinely didn't know what to expect when I posted this, but I'm so grateful to my husband for suggesting it. I needed an unbiased perspective on the gold dress issue. And now it's clear that the dress wasn't the problem. Many of you had asked if the dress stood out, and to be honest, I didn't think it did. Another girl was wearing the exact same dress, only in dark red, and we even joked about it. Slip dresses are common where I live, and it was actually recommended by the bride. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became, it wasn't about the dress. It was about how I looked wearing it. And maybe that made Lauren feel insecure. Dan found out quickly what really happened. He called me that night. Apparently, Lauren's mom had told him that I was really drunk and had made rude comments about Lauren's dress. Lauren had been the one to ask me to leave. At first, Dan had his doubts, but once his mom called him, it all clicked into place. Ironically, Lauren's mom was wearing a yellow gold dress herself when she ripped into him about letting Lauren treat me like that. Dan didn't have any immediate solutions when he called, and I could tell he was drained. But he thanked me for taking the high road, for not escalating things. He admitted that this was a constant struggle for him, and Lauren had been pushing him to cut me out of his life altogether. She had been trying to convince him that any good husband would do that. It turned out she had never really gotten over her jealousy of our friendship. After their wedding, I told Dan he needed to focus on his happiness, reminding him that I would always be there to support him, no matter what. I told him that if stepping back was what he needed, I'd do it, because his peace mattered. But the very next day, when he called me, he wasn't off to his honeymoon. Instead, they were still at home, tangled in whatever mess they had between them. So who knows what was really going on? Meanwhile, I took the necessary steps to protect myself. I blocked Lauren and her mom, and forwarded all the messages to Dan, as suggested. I needed to take control of the situation, even if it hurt. A few months passed, and the situation lingered in my mind longer than I expected. It felt like it resonated with so many people, so I decided it was time for a final update. To those who had reached out, to those who helped me feel a little less alone, thank you. And to the one person who suggested I post here, thank you too. I honestly had no idea how any of this worked, and your advice gave me the clarity I needed. Then, out of nowhere, Lauren found the post on TikTok. I don't know how she stumbled upon it, but when she did, she was furious. She called me, using Dan's phone, and the first thing I heard was her screaming at me. "You ruined my wedding," she yelled. "You knew exactly what you were doing wearing a dress like that." What kind of dress was it anyway? The same cut that Amy wore? She was ranting, fuming. Someone else wore the same dress, just in a different color. I just can't win with you. If I dress nicely, I'm out to get you. If I dress casually, I'm taking the piss. I've tried so hard with you, but I'm done. And with that, she hung up. I was left in shock, heartbroken and confused. What was I supposed to do? I immediately messaged Dan, telling him that with everything happening, I couldn't be in his life right now. I wished him well and told him I would always be a call away, before I blocked the number. It was a painful decision, but I had to protect myself. 3 months passed, and nothing came through, except for messages from Dan's mom, who told me that Lauren wouldn't stop complaining about me. It felt like life was continuing on, but nothing was getting better. Then, life took another turn. I found out I was pregnant. My husband and I made a post about it a few weeks ago, announcing the news, and it wasn't long before Dan found out. A few days later, he showed up at my front door. He had been drinking, and I was on mocktails, but we talked for hours. He admitted to me that he always thought it was the right thing to do, listen to his partner's boundaries, cater to her insecurities. Lauren had a lot of body image issues, he explained, which led to her being suspicious of other women. Dan thought he was doing the right thing by supporting her. But somewhere along the way, he lost his sense of balance. He stopped setting boundaries of his own, especially when it came to how she controlled his interactions with his friends. As we talked more, Dan told me how Lauren's actions had forced him to take a hard look at her boundaries. He realized that they often contradicted each other. Lauren believed, rightfully so, that women should wear whatever they feel comfortable in, but then she'd turn around and complain about me wearing bikinis to family beach days. She said it was inappropriate. Dan also started seeing the bigger picture. Lauren was trying to cut out every woman in his life, including his own sister, and even tried to pressure him to quit his job because his boss was female. When Dan found out about my pregnancy, he knew he couldn't remain an absent friend during this time. He told me he had a serious conversation with Lauren. I won't go into the details, but the result of that conversation was that they are now separated. They're both in therapy. Dan asked Lauren to move out, and she's currently staying with her mom, who, to no surprise, is convinced that I'm the villain in all of this. As much as I feel sad for Dan's relationship ending this way, I can't help but feel relieved. He's starting to understand what a healthy relationship looks like. He's beginning to see that he can be my friend again, even through my pregnancy. My husband is happy about it too. He's excited to have his gaming buddy back. I did reach out to Lauren, with Dan's permission, to let her know that I'm open to talking, especially if it would help in a therapy session. But I haven't heard from her, and maybe that's for the best. Some days, I feel bad. I know a lot of what's happened stems from insecurity. But I'm trying to focus on the positive. Both of them are in therapy, and hopefully, they'll move forward towards something better. Sorry if this update is a little scattered, pregnancy brain is hitting me harder than expected. But I wanted to thank everyone who's followed along. This update was read and approved by Dan, too. Dan's comment, "We're really excited." And while I can't speak for Lauren's motivations, I do agree, whatever issues she's dealing with don't give her the right to push unfair boundaries. I am truly in awe of the strength Dan's shown over these past few weeks. If they do continue their relationship, I know it'll be on better terms for both of them.